working on that.
Well, I think one of the things that happened is we saw the plans for the pickleball courts going in that other area, but
That's-
that's a long way off. I mean,
That's a long way in.
and it's changed. That's not a, I mean, they're looking at another area now, right?
Yeah, the 35 is, the 35 is the property that it was going to go in.
Right.
It's up in the air.
Right. With the Google.
So
Yeah.
we need to find, and we are not having luck getting into the athletic club. They're still, yeah, it's for profit and we're trying to keep the prices down. So it makes it,
Sure.
we want anyone to have access to pickleball, not just elite or wealthy.
Right.
And so, we're reaching out to the Hispanic community. We're reaching, we want it to be fun
Sure.
and
Sure.
inclusive.
Right. Exactly.
Now,
Exactly.
Hood River is not quite that way.
They're more,
So there are more people coming from Hood River to join our club.
because it's not as.
Yep, you got it.
Right.
No worries.
So anyway,
And again, I don't think.
Test.
So we can,
let's talk about it.
yeah. I think getting with Scott is a good.
I emailed him last week and he said, no, that's a basketball. And so I had known that we were in the process of developing them. So I went on to the original plans last night and they were pickleball, basketball, and now it's going to be a covered
So is Dan.
basketball. So I figured that,
Yeah, he emailed me. So do
if
we
you ask, I can go out and find money.
have a quorum?
And why don't we develop it?
We
Because
have 5, yeah.
We do. 5 out of 9.
Mhm.
well, if he would have called me.
Yeah.
Before COVID or during COVID,
I'll
there were a
invite
couple of
them.
road guys that were trying to,
We'll see if
what
they can help
happened
me.
was they developed, it was Brenda and Don, and I love them.
You guys want to
but
move
they were
over,
going
it's
this
just the
direction
3 of
and
us
then
tonight. It's an
Another
option.
person was going, excuse me,
Sorry. I just was saying, if you want to move over, you can. It's just the 3 of us in here tonight. Everybody else is gone or
Let's-
online.
let's get going.
Yeah. So the road, let's, I want to hear about this.
All right, I'll talk to you more.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's get going.
Oh,
Uh,
say what?
I'm just really happy right now.
We need to.
I could be the one to move.
We've lost track of
It's okay,
time.
we're fine. Yeah,
Let's
nope.
get going.
it's okay. It's all good. Got the recording and everything going. We're all good. Oh, no. Okay. All right, welcome everyone to the Columbia Gateway Urban Renewal Agency Board meeting, September 30th, 2022. I'll call this meeting to order. Paula, if you will please call the roll.
Diana Bailey,
Present.
Casey Coburn is absent, Tracy Dujic,
Present?
Darcy Long,
Present.
Tim McLaughlin,
Present.
Ken Richardson is absent, Shannon Saldivar is absent, Kathy Schwartz.
Present.
Okay, thank you. All right, if you'll please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. So at this time, I am looking for an approval of the agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
And I'll go ahead and second.
Thank you, Tracy and Tim. All in favor of the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, motion passes. Next, we have the approval of the minutes from July 19th, 2022. Were there any corrections, changes, or additions? I'm seeing head shaking no. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from July 19th, 22, as written.
And McLaughlin will second.
Yes.
Into your microphone.
Yes, absolutely. Okay,
I heard her give you permission.
I know.
Okay, so it's been moved by Tracy Dudacek and seconded by Tim McLaughlin to approve the minutes of July 19th, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. During this, we have public comment during this portion of the meeting. Anyone may speak on any subject that does not later appear on the agenda. 5 minutes per person will be allowed. Do we have any public comment? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to staff comments and a report from Josh Hamler, our interim director.
Thank you, Chair Long, board members, Joshua Chandler, interim community development director, also the interim urban renewal manager. We're joined this evening by the city's consultant and former community development director, Alice Cannon. We've had some changes in our office over the past couple months, and Alice is still assisting the city with all things urban renewal. So she is going to provide some information on for our project updates as well as the discussion item coming up. Welcome, Alice.
Good evening. Thank you, Josh, and good evening, Chair Long and members of the board. Nice to be here. I wanted to point this out because I'm just so delighted. There's a painting in the background here from local artist Yvonne Wakefield. I bought that during the Mural Fest, and I'm just so happy to have it here in my new home office. So I just thought I'd brag a little bit about that. Anyway, good evening. I wanted to give you an update on 3 projects that are underway, a verbal update here on the Tony's building. You've been hearing me say over the past few months, we are going to get a grant. We haven't had that confirmed yet from the state. I'm going to say the same thing. I did get an update, however, is that the money that we will get, that we are going to be awarded, will be coming from next fiscal year's dollars, and the fiscal year begins, the federal fiscal year begins October 1st. So I'm hoping that I hear something first week or second week in October from Business Oregon about, because it's federal money coming in from the EPA, brownfield cleanup money. So just to give some background, the cost of demolition is expensive. We have budgeted $750,000 for that. The cost of kind of, if you line out all of the, if you do a line item budget of that, 250,000 to 400,000 of that will be just for the asbestos abatement. And that's what we're going to get funding for from this Oregon Brownfield Cleanup Fund. So it's going to defray our costs quite a bit. So pretty excited about it. It just hadn't received the official confirmation, but we'll be back in front of you, probably in front of the council, as it turns out, to get the grant agreement approved. But definitely you'll be in the loop on that, providing recommendation to the council if that's the right body to approve the grant agreement. So that's Tony's building. So stay tuned. I think we were hopeful that we could release the RFP sometime this fall, and I guess I'm going to keep hope alive on that, so that we will get it's more favorable market conditions in the kind of the shoulder season of construction. When you're finished with the hot and heavy active time, it's a better bidding climate. So I guess I'm hopeful that this will work to our advantage. The rec building, we've been staying in touch with Todd Carpenter on his project. And as you know, the ice cream shop is open. You probably have seen that. So that's the second storefront. And then the other one is occupied by the apothecary and a party store. So we have 2 out of the 3 storefronts occupied. The third storefront, our development and disposition agreement with Todd Carpenter and Carla McQuaid, has the milestone deadline for that completion would be January 18th. he tells me he's on track to complete that. I do, when I've been in town recently, I've checked on the progress and I go out and look at the site and he's made good progress. He tells me that either, I asked Josh, is the sidewalk closed in front of the building? And he's saying no. I think it might be next week or the first week in October, the exterior wall of that third storefront will be, he'll begin that work. But if you go inside, all of the demo is complete. He has a few stray bowling balls hanging around. It's kind of fun to pick those up, and it's kind of a relic of the past there. So that's the rec building. So stay tuned with that one, but I am hopeful that we'll see some visible progress on that third storefront here very shortly. The First Street project, at your last meeting on July 19th, you as a board gave unanimous consensus to terminate our grant agreement with the ODOT, who is the steward of the federal funding for the First Street streetscape project. And the reason for that is we did some analysis and determined that we could deliver the project 2 years sooner and $800,000 cheaper if we did it on our own. That's even after paying back the little bit of about $300,000 worth of grant funding that we've already spent since 2008 when this was originally awarded. So the process for that is to go to City Council next to that's who the original grant agreement is with. So we have some more work to do, just dotting I's, crossing T's with ODOT, the ODOT organization. So some briefing needs to happen, but when Jonathan and I reviewed the grant agreement, there are two primary ways to terminate that agreement. Only one really works in this circumstance, and that would be a mutual agreement with ODOT to terminate the agreement. So we need them to give us something in writing, email, or some other written document that says that they do indeed mutually agree to terminate that agreement. The other ways to terminate it don't really work in this situation. So if it comes to that they don't agree, Jonathan and I will have to get together and figure that one out, but we will. I feel pretty confident the staff understands, and it's just a matter of getting some briefings, getting over the finish line with that. So stay tuned with that one as well. If we get that soon, one of the things, if I'm still under contract with the city, we could start working on some of the landmarks, getting some of this design work in front of our landmarks commission. So there may be some work we can do before, while the design is 100% completed, because we're at 95% design on that project at this point. So there might be some permitting work that we can do with our local Historic Landmarks Commission in the meantime, while we're waiting for that project to go to bid. So stay tuned. And that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. The next agenda item is really the main event, and that's talking about our grant program.
Tracy?
Question. I have two questions, Alice. Do you know what the timeline is for presenting to the city council or to discussing this with the city council? Is it on their agenda?
Yeah, I just talked to Josh Chandler about that earlier today, and we had a placeholder for the second meeting in September. So is it next week? It's coming up soon. And we weren't able to make that agenda. So we're just going to put it on for the first meeting in October, or there's a placeholder for the first meeting in October, which would be, let me check that date here.
I think it's the 24th.
It would either be the 10th or the 24th. So it just depends at this point. But yeah, it's a placeholder, and Matthew and Izetta, who manage our city council agenda process, know that this is a priority.
Okay. And then the second question is just more for my information, because I've come into this whole project, several years down the road. It's been in the making. And after I left the meeting last time, I just kind of started thinking about the purpose of, urban renewal and, increasing tax rolls. So can you describe for me how the First Street project, I know it's in disrepair and I know it's not safe, But how, you know, compared to something like the rec building project or Tony's building, where that's very clearly, you know, bringing businesses in. So can you just kind of describe how that meets the mission and goals of the urban renewal? And that will just help me understand a little better
Good, very good question.
when I'm asked.
Yeah, very good question. It's all urban renewal plans that I'm aware of have an infrastructure improvement component, that if you improve the infrastructure, that supports redevelopment. So it's not, and those are specifically listed in the plans. And so, for instance, thinking about the hat you wear, you sit on the board of the North Wasco Parks and Recreation District. The Urban Renewal Agency is contributing up to a $300,000 match for the Greenway Trail. And one might ask, well, how does that enhance property values? Well, it does, because it's adding some amenities, some bike and ped amenities to the downtown, and that improves livability and access and all those things. So if you have, I think one can make an argument that if you have better infrastructure, public infrastructure, that supports the business community. So I think that's the connection. But what I will tell you is there is a whole category that's approved in this plan, the 1990 urban renewal plan, that includes a whole, I'll say boatload, a whole truckload of infrastructure improvements, including roads and bikes and peds, and even the cruise ship dock and some of those things.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Any other questions? Okay, Josh, looks like none.
I think you'd be next. Board member comments, I believe.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Always confuses me that it's there and not at the end. Do I have any board member comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our discussion item. And I'll turn it over back to you, Josh.
All right, thanks. And this one again, Alice has put together a presentation for us. So a brief presentation on our new incentive program. So take it away, Alice.
Okay, let me share a screen. And you'll let me know if you can see that. Do you see it?
Yes.
Can you see that, Josh? Okay, good. Thank you. Slideshow. All right. Well, I think I took this one the last visit I had over with Todd Carpenter, and this is from the storefront that will be improved soon. The very last storefront that held the bowling alley. So I wanted to give tonight a grant program status report, because we've been very active this past month since we launched the new program that you adopted back in May. But we answered some final administrative questions and had a really good discussion at your last meeting in July. So we launched this program on August 5th. We sent out this mailer here that you see it was a postcard mailer to about 325 property owners, all the
Alice?
property owners. Oh, yes.
I'm sorry. So we can see your screen, but it's not moving forward in slide view.
Very strange. Thank you.
This happened on another presentation
It
before they
did.
went out and went back in and it fixed it.
So can you see it now?
Well, I see the screen that you look at. There you go.
You see it?
But your notes are there too, but
Yeah.
Or the next slide is there. It's a different view.
Very strange. Let me go
Yeah.
out.
I guess if there's nothing bad in the notes, we
Right,
can do that
exactly,
version
right.
too.
Well, I copied over an old presentation, so.
We're going to cheat and see the slide ahead.
So, okay. Does that show up now the right way or no?
No.
No.
What about that?
Mm-mm.
Well, this is troubling, Josh. Do you have the presentation there, Josh, on your?
I have an old version. I don't have this updated.
I think it's all real-time updated, so it's the same. So
Well, if you can repeat what you did where we just saw the next slide, we'll try really hard not to look ahead. Because it was bigger and that was better.
Do you see the program launched slide at this
Yes.
time?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just go off
Yes.
of this screen then.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, Alice, it might be helpful, I guess, going forward if we just, and if we're glitching here, we could just, if you just clicked on each one as you go through, it might be helpful.
I'll do that. Okay. So this is we launched the program the first week in August. We sent this mailer that you see here out to about 325 property owners. Thank you, Paula, for arranging all of that. And we released a news release. We did a Facebook post, and then I put a radio in here just for fun because Josh was on the radio talking about our grant program as well. He was asked to do that. So the word got out because we've had a lot of folks respond to that initial push of information. We also developed a web page for this. And basically, I think what you can tell people is to go to the dals.org and then the Urban Renewal Agency. And then once they get to this Urban Renewal Agency page that I'm clicking on right now, there is an Urban Renewal Grant Program button that they just push on. It takes them to this, and this page has a whole bunch of things on it. We have the program guidelines that you approved back in May that have been updated just a little bit. We translated those into Spanish. We have a grant application, and then we have an urban renewal map so people can know if they're in the district or out, if they qualify. And then we also have the Spanish map. It's been translated into Spanish so people who are Spanish speakers can know it just as easily as English speakers. So grant inquiries, we've had about 15 people reach out to us, and I included a map just so you can see that it's pretty well spread out throughout the downtown. And I've been very pleased with that. And it's not all the usual suspects. We're hearing from a lot of people that we haven't heard from before who want to make improvements on their building, and that's wonderful. So I've had a lot of good discussions with people. And kind of going on to the next slide, we have 4 applications in the door right now. And all of the folks who have applied for the commercial grant program, which would be $50,000 or less. And that would be a staff level decision. So there aren't any that yet, although we're expecting a couple of them, at least 2 or 3, that in the short term that'll be over the $50,000 kind of staff level cap that'll come to you. So we've had about 15 inquiries, as I said earlier, and I wanted to make a note that people are so pleased with this program. They're really, really glad that we've launched this, and they believe, I think as I do, that the Dalles is going to pop at some point. It's going to really turn into something special, and they believe that this is a great program. It's bold, it's generous, it's going to make a big difference. That's what I'm hearing from people. I wanted you to hear that directly. So next steps, the next big push we found as we were doing the Dalles 2040 project, the vision project that's soon to be adopted by our city council, that we reached a lot of people on email doing an email campaign. So I want to do this. We want to do the same here with the grant program. I just haven't, it's harder. You have to kind of build your email database from the ground up. And I need more time to do that. We need more time to do that. But at least we know the property owner mailer has gone out. Spending a lot of time responding to inquiries, and that's an area where I'm helping Josh and the Urban Renewal Program and Planning Department at this time. I'm helping in that way. And then as the applications get turned in, we're having informal, what we call pre-application meetings, so that we take a look at their application and say, these things are missing. This is what would make it easier for a decision to be made. Trying to make this a friendly, responsive process for people. And after all, it's an economic development tool. We're kind of treating it that way, as opposed to treating it differently than one might if it was coming in for a development permit, for instance. Some of the follow-up research, one of the big questions that came up at the last meeting was this idea of property liens. And we talked about, there were 2 sides to it. One was the property owner perspective, that people may be that, well, first, let me talk about the urban renewal agency perspective, that we have a need to protect our investment. If we're giving, especially the high dollar amounts that we're offering as part of this program, we want to make sure that our investment is protected as an agency, so that if people, if we're writing a big check or $20,000 check to a property owner, that they can't go turn around in a year or 2 or 3 and demolish the building or somehow remove the investment that we have funded. So with that in mind, we went off because there were some questions from the property owner perspective that perhaps this would be a barrier to people participating in the program, that property owners would feel scared, maybe buy a property lien and feel like it was something punitive or negative. We have in our current, you'll see a kind of a clip of this grant agreement template that Jonathan Kara and I, the city attorney, have worked on. And what that has is a template, and we have a 15-year lien in place in our draft grant agreement. We went and researched to see what other peer agencies are doing. And what we learned is there are some, I think it may only be one program that doesn't have any protection. That's not advised. I don't advise that at all. And then some that have a 5-year, some that go for 10 years. There were quite a few, maybe 3 that we reviewed that are like size to the Dows that do a 10-year. We are kind of, I think we're alone having the 15-year. And then there are some that go for the life of the building or the life of the structure, that are kind of in perpetuity. So I wanted to get feedback from the board, because this was something that was of interest to everyone, and open this up. I think from Jonathan Kara and my perspective and Josh's, 10 years is fine. 15 is good. I just wanted to see what your perspectives were. I've made an effort to tell all of the people I've talked to, when I know they're going to apply for an application, I'll say, well, if you win a grant, you will have to have a lien on your property, and explain what that is. And I will admit, it does seem scary to people, but once I explain that we're using taxpayer money and we need to protect that investment, they understand, and they also get that it's not punitive. Do they want it? No, but it goes with the territory. I think most people understand that, at least so far. So any feedback from the board on this topic about the research we've done, and anything that you're thinking about as I described what that research is?
Can't see everybody. For example, I can't see Kathy. So if you want to say something, you'll just have to take yourself off.
Well, I'll stop sharing. There we go.
Oh, that's okay.
I have a question on that. Also, there was nothing about like the breaking down the money over time, or less of a lien over time, or anything like that on anything.
Let me pull up. I'm not going to share the screen, but let me pull up what I had looked at an email earlier today on this topic. And I think what you're speaking about is a depreciating, kind of a depreciating over time.
Yeah, basically, so that the investment up front is, the chunk of it's still liable, but then over time it reduces so that the property owner doesn't feel as.
Well, my instant reaction to that as a staff member is that seems complicated to administer. So, but I was interested because you asked, and I think another member did too, to see what others do. And I did not see, I'm just going to do a confirmation here.
Okay.
I did not see that. I didn't see any depreciation. There were just different times. So there would be a 5-year, a 10-year, or a 15-year. And then there is one that says duration of useful life. That's at the city of Fairview, Oregon. I don't know what that means, because if it gets demolished, it's not useful anymore. So, but anyway, yeah. So I didn't see anything that was a depreciating lien, nothing like that.
Thank you.
Alice, this is Kathy. I think I think 10 years seems sufficient, and especially since that's what you researched and found like communities to have. So that makes sense to me that we go the 10 years, not quite as scary for business owners, but in line with other communities our size that are doing the same thing. And I guess once again, I think it would be helpful if you would give an example again of how somebody might, what somebody might do that gets them into trouble with that lien on their title, for instance. And what would that look like? If you could walk us through that a little bit.
So for instance, if the property, it's a good question, by the way. If the property is for sale, they say they want to sell their property, then this would show up on the title search, the lien would show up. And what it means is that it will pass on to the next property owner, and they'll just need to be aware that they need to protect that investment. So that's the impact. The other impact is that if they do anything to remove that investment from the building, then they have to repay the funding. So that's what it is. I think the important part will be we'll have to have a tracking system here to make sure that we're removing these at the right time as well.
Any other questions? Doesn't look like it.
I just wanted to say this is an exciting time. I've been really pleased with the amount of, just with this 325 mailer that we sent out to everyone, with the amount of interest we received and also the positive comments. So I'm hopeful that we'll have not only the people that we predicted would apply, but a whole bunch of other ones. And as Josh and I know, in talking a lot over the past few weeks, there will be, anytime you kind of unfurl a new program, you'll get a lot of questions. So we just have to stay on top of the questions and make sure we're keeping the answers and the implementation in alignment with what you intended when you approved this program.
Mhm.
And I have a piece of unrelated news that I forgot to put in the staff comments earlier, and I'd be happy to share that whenever you're ready, Chair.
Certainly, go ahead.
Yeah, so the blue building, we have a few outstanding loans on our properties, and one of them was the blue building, but it was paid off September 6th of this year. And we received a check for over $120,000 to pay off that loan. So that part is finished, and Josh and I met with the property owner, and he is really excited about getting a site review submitted and moving forward with that project. And then as part, concurrently applying for a grant as well.
It is good news.
Yeah. Yeah. So the remaining big loan that's out there, we have two that I can think of. We have a couple of interest only on the Honnold building where we pay the interest, and the Honnold building and the Gayer building, which are units above commercial along 2nd and Washington and 2nd and Federal. Those two projects. And then we have a loan, of course, with the recreation building where they will owe us for that last storefront. And then in 2026, the Commodore loan comes due for the Commodore building that sits right across from City Hall. And the balance on that loan, the balloon payment, will be $280,000+. So more to come. I haven't had a lot of interaction with that property owner as of late, but that's what's outstanding out there.
Great. Great.
So short and sweet meeting tonight.
Yeah.
But I know it was important to everyone to not cancel too many meetings, but I guess I wanted to make sure, and Josh and I wanted to make sure that we're working and exciting things are happening behind the scenes right now with these grant applications rolling in.
Great. We appreciate those updates. I'm sure it's good information. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and,
Excuse me, Chair, one clarifying
Yes.
question. I think I heard you say, Alice, all the applications that were requested were commercial and 4 of the ones that went forward are commercial. So there was no other types asked for.
As of now, we
Okay.
don't have a mixed use or an SDC waiver request yet. But I know we're going to get some, well, I know of 3 that will come in and maybe more. So, and, another thing to know is that I've received 2 inquiries from nonprofits who asked, can we get a grant? And we explained, no, you're a nonprofit, so you don't qualify. And we were friendly, but it was fine. And then the other one was, I did get an inquiry from someone who owns a big house and wanted some help with improving that house. And we don't have any programs that match up with that. So nonetheless, all the people who I've talked to, well, the 3 that I've said I had to say no to were still positive about the program. So
Thank you for that clarification.
thank you.
Any other final comments or questions? Okay, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.